Chapter 9. Wilder had made this route 100 times when he was a yearling. He traveled with his father and brothers when the werewolves' packs were plentiful and were social wolves. The packs were fewer now because of the harsh weather, infighting, starvation, and a disease that rendered the were-females sterile. He knew more about Alaska than he wanted to know, and if he came back here, it wouldn't be too soon, that was, if he managed to make it out alive. Closing his eyes, it appeared he had been asleep for a second. Still tired from the ordeal of rescuing Adrianne, lack of sleep, traveling in the cold damp snow in his shifter form, and making love to her had taken a toll on his magnificent body. Thinking about Adrianne made him smile. It had been a long time since he had laughed or smiled, but it would be even longer. He had to do what needed to be done. Find Hunter and kill Bane. Another plane had been prepared for the flight to northern Alaska. There were no roads that reached that far inland. The trip would be by small plane to Barter Island. A plane he wasn't too thrilled about boarding. Wilder had to bite the bullet and do what was necessary to lure Bane out of wherever he was holed up, he thought. Since he had no intentions of turning Adrianne over to him, he would have to coax him out by any means necessary, and he finally prepared his mind to do that. Lie if he had to. Make promises he couldn't keep. Do the things he never wanted to do, kill another werewolf or human. It was against his laws. It was against everything he thought he was and wanted to be. It was that human part of him that he held dear, and now Bane was taking that from him, and he knew he would never be the same again. He had instructed the crew of his jet to have ready the supplies he would need. Traveling light was a necessity, only clothing and food would be required. It was the time of the polar day, the midnight sun, and he would have plenty of sunlight to travel in to flush Bane out of his cave. Wilder departed his jet in Fairbanks, and then climbed aboard the small silver and white plane headed to Barter Island, along the coast of the Arctic Ocean, where he would reach there in an hour. Watching out of the window at the terrain from a low-flying airplane was much different than flying above the clouds. Now he saw the route the deer and wolves took. He hadn't been in the air 30 minutes when he glanced out and saw black smoke. Thoughts swirled through his mind, but he had to dismiss panicked thoughts and thoughts of Adrianne and concentrate on survival. The captain, seeing the billow of dark smoke from the engine, promptly announced that they would be making an emergency landing, but Wilder knew there were no airstrips close. The emergency would be to land in a river. Hopefully it wasn't frozen or deep enough where he could swim out, which wouldn't be the case this time of year. The temperature was -14 degrees, and rivers and lakes were frozen solid. "Don't worry, Mr. Samsa, we have everything under control," the captain said, looking over to his co-pilot. The captain tried to sound positive, but Wilder's sharp ears heard a crack in his voice. "Don't worry, Mr. Samsa, we are professionals. We've called in our position. Someone will be out looking for us in a matter of minutes. Once they find us, you can be on your way to your destination." Wilder knew the crew's chances of survival and their chances of surviving this crash. His were much better than theirs. To ensure that he would have a chance, he unbuckled his seatbelt. "Please, Mr. Samsa, don't unbuckle. If you do that, the company can't be responsible," the captain said, maneuvering the plane to the best of his ability. Wilder shifted in seconds. The pilot and his companion looked on at him in horror. It didn't matter, because Wilder knew enough about planes, and he knew enough about the rough terrain of solid ice, that there was no way the crew would make it when the plane crashed. It wasn't if, it was when, and the captain knew that too. Their faces showed the inevitability of the situation, even while the pilot was trying to reassure Wilder that everything would be okay. The plane nosedived as the pilot and co-pilot raced for impact. Wilder reached for his backpack. In it he carried a knife to skin animals and to ensure he would have fresh meat. When the plane hit the ice, it didn't crack. It broke the plane apart, which burst into flames. Wilder had been ejected a few minutes before the back of the plane landed and broke. In the initial impact, he had pried a window loose. He knew he could propel himself out and away from the plane, so he leapt out of the window. Another loud bang came from the fuel tank, sending smoke and red-hot flames high in the air. Where Wilder had landed was several feet from the burning plane. Looking at the wreckage, he knew nothing could protect the two men from the unescapable crash. When Wilder woke, he was lying on the hard ice-covered river, watching the shell of the plane burn. The flames could be seen for miles. If he stayed nearby, maybe someone would see him, but then he was a werewolf now, and to shift back to human form would be to risk freezing to death. Wilder trotted off to the safety of the wooded area. Soon predators would be lurking, because of the hole in the ice from the burning plane, and the smell of meat. The pilot and co-pilot, of course, he thought. The plane, after its quick descent, had made an enormous break in the ice when the rear slammed down hard. The frozen river was unsafe now, because animals would come to investigate, and if they were young and inexperienced, they would fall through the ice. It was spring, and polar bears would be on the hunt for fish, and maybe find something extra. Wilder knew he could not stay there. As Wilder trotted on, trying to determine where he was, he heard footsteps make small cracks in the ice and snow. When he turned, he was surrounded by 12 fierce, blazing black eyes. Those eyes belonged to 6 ferocious, hungry wolves. The wolves wasn't sure what he was at first. They had never seen a wolf as large as him, and not a white one. If they had, it was rare. Wilder knew right away they were yearlings, and their first time on a hunt as a pack. He knew by looking at them that they were stray lone wolves, who had left their mother's nest too soon, because of lack of food. 6 young wolves were too many for one female to feed, especially if they were yearlings and not pups. They had formed their own pack with one female among them. These wolves hadn't eaten in days. Their bodies were emaciated, and bones stuck through their tough hides. They crept up to him cautiously. It was one of him and 6 of them, but they didn't appear to be organized, and that was to Wilder's advantage. There were no alphas among them to lead them and make them hunt as a pack. It was hunger that edged them on, making them a pack, and nothing more. By the flash of their teeth and weak howls, they were hungry for anything that moved, and their eyes were on the large white well-fed wolf before them. Their eyes fell on Wilder. Wilder's mouth receded, and his large canines showed abundantly to warn them, to force them to fall back and go the other way, but there wasn't a deterrent to the hunger that these wolves felt. The look in their eyes was that of madness. The older wolf's terrified hunger was so pronounced that he sprang first at Wilder. The others remained cautious and afraid. They would let the older yearling wolf do their work for them. Wilder met him head-on in midair as the wolf used his last bit of strength, and in a second, Wilder's mature canines sank deep into the wolf's jugular. Blood spilled from the wound as Wilder landed on his feet, gnashing, whipping around, showing his bloody mouth. With the sight and smell of blood, Wilder thought the others would attack as well, and he was ready for them, but instead they made a mad rush in the direction where the corpse of the wolf lay. When Wilder realized they weren't after him, he was relieved that he didn't have to deplete his strength for a bloody fight, but save it for the inevitable fight with Bane. Wilder watched the young wolves curiously. When they saw the older wolf dying, they rushed on him and tore him apart. One taking a leg and the others devouring the rest of his body. Backing out of the area, he thought it best to let them enjoy their lunch. He wanted as much distance away from them as possible. Then he heard the sound of a small plane. He had to get to high ground to signal them. He had to take the chance when he shifted, he wouldn't freeze. Running as quick as he could, he saw a clearing, and there he shifted. He stood naked, waving at the plane as they made a second pass. Then someone inside the plane saw him and dropped a rope ladder. As it passed over him, he caught it and began climbing it as the plane leveled and rose into the air. Finally, he made it inside the airplane. He closed his eyes for a second and let out a small sigh. "Mr. Samsa, it's a good thing that the sun lasts long here. If it was another time of the year, we never would have found you. How did you escape that wreckage?" It took a few minutes for Wilder to catch his breath. I guess I'm lucky. If you don't mind me asking, how did you lose your clothes? When the plane caught fire, my clothes were burning. I tore them off. That had to be a gutsy move. The temperature is below freezing. It was either burn or freeze to death. Which one would you prefer? Wilder asked. I guess I see what you mean. One last question. How did you last that long in these temperatures? Wilder glanced and raised one eyebrow at the man, tired of his questions. As the pilot made a pass, Wilder and the man who asked questions saw the wolves carting off the last of the young gray wolf. Wolves are out roaming this time of year. There are only a few, but they are hungry because of the lack of game. Wilder cocked his head to the side. Who are you, and do you have any clothes or a blanket I can cover myself with? I have something in my camera case. I'm a reporter for a small newspaper in Fairbanks. This is a great survival story. When we flew here, we didn't expect anyone to survive. I just came for the photos. We had reports from other planes flying in the area that your plane was toast, the reporter said, watching Wilder. Look. You can't print my story now. My wife doesn't know I'm on this trip. It's not like you were with a woman. The reporter laughed, then Wilder noticed that the plane he was in was headed back to the Fairbanks airport. Why are we headed to the airport? Wilder questioned. You have to see a doctor, the pilot said. I don't need a doctor. I have business I have to conduct, which is far more pressing than letting a doctor tell me what I already know. I'm fine. But sir, it's procedure and the police have to ask you questions. So, am I going to the hospital, or will the police interrogate me before the doctor sees me? The doctor will see you first, of course. The reporter thought that was a strange question. Maybe it was the reporter in him that made him suspicious. He wondered how Wilder could survive naked for a few minutes in the cold weather with packs of wolves roaming around. Mr. Samsa, how did you say you kept warm? I didn't say, but I dug a hole in the snow and lay in that hole until I heard your plane overhead. Something my father taught me when I was a teenager. Part of the survival techniques a father teaches a son. You don't say. The reporter eyed Wilder, slanting his head to the side, and gave a curious glance. He shook his head. Never heard of that in all my years. The plane landed and Wilder climbed out, a little sore and stiff. Nothing like a good hike in the snow to keep you fit, Wilder said to the reporter. The reporter had a pair of jeans that fitted Wilder. Wilder's waist was small and the jeans hung low. He tied a small rope to keep them up, but his shoulders and chest were wide and his arms too long and muscular to fit his shirt, so Wilder walked in the cold bare-chested. There was an ambulance waiting, and the reporter climbed in with him. You can't print that story until I talk with my wife. Okay, Mr. Samsa, but I know there's more to this story. I just can't figure it out. Wilder watched the reporter with a raised eyebrow. I need a phone. Can you get me a phone? The reporter reached inside his pocket and handed Wilder the phone. The phone rang and Robert answered. How is Adrianne? Are Lysel and Drayton on their feet yet? They're coming along. Drayton is in with Adrianne. He's comforting her. Wilder wanted to be with her now that she was pregnant, but it was only right that Drayton should be there, and he was thankful for that. Do you want me to bring the phone to her? No. I don't want her to know that you've talked to me. Wilder could hear Robert's breath pause and hitch. What is it, Robert? I don't know, but I think Bane's in the area. Mina has been nervous and terrified. She's not saying anything specific. The dogs are behaving erratically. Even the horses are unsettled. I think he got you out of the way, so he could make an attempt at Adrianne again. Lysel and Drayton can't stop him, and Devon is spending a lot of time away from the ranch. He's in town with my sister every evening. I don't want to alarm anyone. It's good you told me. I'm just afraid of what's going to happen in the next few days if he's lurking around the ranch. I don't think I can stop him. I'm coming home now, Wilder said. What about Hunter? Hunter is my son. My firstborn. He will have to learn to survive. I can't do anything for him now. I need to be there to protect my family. Wilder hit the button. Take me to my plane. I will pay you whatever you want, he said to the ambulance driver. The driver glanced in the mirror at him as if he was insane. You can't take me where I don't want to go, Wilder said to the driver, sensing his uncertainty. The ambulance driver and reporter agreed. Wilder called ahead to his pilot. When they reached the airfield, his jet was waiting to take off. He said goodbye to the reporter and gave instructions on when he could print the story. Wilder had to let go of Hunter. He had to get home in time. He had to be there at the moment Bane would make his move. If Wilder hesitated, he would have nothing. No sons. No Adrianne and no family.